time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed with. Those tainted sources I ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live on what is today, Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Hope everyone's having a good day, staying safe in the United Corporations of America. And, a lot to discuss, on a day where the death count of coronavirus here in the U.S. Now past 82,000 lives have been lost in the United States. And as I'm going to show you, we have buffoons running our government, zealots running our government, and lunatic zealots in our media, endangering all of us for the economy and to get America back to work, even if we have to kill half of them. Absolutely insane. And by the way, not to give anybody else an idea, but Jen and I are looking into trademarking United Corporations of America. And if that happens, get ready for the t-shirts, the hats, the mugs, the bikinis. It's going to be great. United Corporations of America. We also have a new development here at Status Coup. I shouldn't say development, but a new something. If you look at the bottom of the screen on the right, we put a subscribe button. Now I know for the 100 people watching right now, you've already subscribed. But if not all of you have subscribed, it's as simple as just hover over that subscribe button on the bottom right, click subscribe, and then click the bell for all notifications. Now, by clicking the bell for all notifications next to the subscribe button, YouTube might notify you 25% of the time. But we're working on getting people alerted when we're live. So there's that. Also, other good news. We are, it's just, I can't believe the generosity of our audience, even during these tough economic times. We're currently $160 away from hitting $101,000 raised via GoFundMe. Thank you. $10 from Anonymous an hour ago. $20 from Joan 2 hours ago. $50 from Anonymous 2 hours ago. Kurt, $34. Thank you so much, Kurt. Anonymous, $20 a couple hours ago. Sheila, $20. Garrick, $30. Anonymous, $10. Stephen, $25. Michael, $10. Raymond in Arkansas. Is that Arkansas or Alaska? I don't even know. $100. Thank you so much, Raymond. Geraldine, $50. Anonymous, 10. Simon, 10. Thank you. We got George W. Bush yesterday, Barron Trump yesterday, Joe Biden yesterday. Who knows who we could get? Maybe Sarah Palin's watching. So thank you. Let's definitely, if we can, pass $101,000 while we're live. Obviously, we totally understand for those of you who can't donate. Obviously, the economic picture not looking so hot right now. that's an understatement. Devastating. So if you can't donate, that's okay. Don't worry about it. If you can, Status Coup has been hit pretty hard, like other businesses. We're now at 1,810 members. We were well over 1,900, so we have lost over 100 members since this has been going on. So we are raising money through GoFundMe to kind of offset the membership losses, which is have been significant. Speaking of membership, tomorrow night, be there, be square. Jen and I, our monthly members call through Zoom. We were doing it before Zoom was hot, before Zoom was what everyone was using. So for members, join us tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific, for a monthly Zoom call. A lot to discuss. It's a video call, but of course, you don't have to be on video if you don't want to be. You can just mute your video and just listen via audio. So I'll plug this a couple times today. And as always, make sure you smash that like button. We got 150 people watching. Only 84 of you have pressed that like button. So I need another, however many of you are, smash that like button. The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see this very live stream. YouTube is throttling the hell out of us, so please do your part. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. We'll get to texting later. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're live there right now. We are also live on Twitch, so definitely, please sign up for Twitch. I know Amazon owns it, but Twitch is a lot better about notifying you when we're live than YouTube is. And it's not suppressed like YouTube, at least yet. So twitch.tv/Status Coup, and join our email list. That's statuscoup.com. Enter your email. So I'm obviously going to get to Nancy Pelosi's and the Democrats' bill today, which, I mean, really doesn't even matter, to tell you the truth, because Mitch McConnell and Trump aren't gonna, it's dead on arrival. But I think it matters in terms of showing who's running the Democratic Party. And it's not you and I, it's the oligarchy and the donors. So we're gonna get into Pelosi's bill. I got an interview with Nomiki Konst, my former colleague at the Young Turks, now has her own show on YouTube. But I have to start with something that really makes my skin boil. Makes my skin boil. And this is a super chat also, if you're feeling super. GoFundMe, super chat, whatever floats your boat. I'm going to play, thank you Kelly Elaine getting us started on the GoFundMe, $5. Thank you Kelly. I'm going to play Rand Paul here in a, I guess it was him and Fauci during Fauci's hearing today. Fauci is self-quarantining because he was around other people with coronavirus. So this is mostly remote. But watch, public health expert, eye doctor, Rand Paul, talk to the #1 infectious disease doctor in the country and explain the birds and the bees about the coronavirus to him. You just can't make up this arrogance. Here we go.
One size fits all, that we're going to have a national strategy and nobody's going to go to school is kind of ridiculous. We really ought to be doing it school district by school district. So I think we ought to have a little bit of humility in our belief that we know what's best for the economy. And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision. We can listen to your advice, but there are people on the other side saying there's not going to be a surge.
I have never made myself out to be the end all and only voice in this. I'm a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. I give advice according to the best scientific evidence. There are a number of other people who come into that and give advice that are more related to the things that you spoke about the need to get the country back open again and economically. I don't give advice about economic things. I don't give advice about anything other than public health. So I wanted to respond to that. The second thing is that you use the word we should be humble about what we don't know. And I think that falls under the fact that we don't know everything about this virus. And we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children, because the more and more we learn, we're seeing things about what this virus can do that we didn't see from the studies in China or in Europe. For example, right now, children presenting with COVID-19 who actually have a very strange inflammatory, very similar to Kawasaki syndrome.
One size fits all, that we're going to have a national strategy and nobody's going to go to school, is kind of ridiculous. We really ought to be doing it school district by school district. So I think we ought to have a little bit of humility in our belief that we know what's best for the economy. And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision. We can listen to your advice, but there are people on the other side saying there's not going to be a surge.
I have never made myself out to be the end all and only voice in this. I'm a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. I give advice according to the best scientific evidence. There are a number of other people who come into that and give advice that are more related to the things that you spoke about the need to get the country back open again and economically. I don't give advice about economic things. I don't give advice about anything other than public health. So I wanted to respond to that. The second thing is that you use the word we should be humble about what we don't know. And I think that falls under the fact that we don't know everything about this virus. And we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children. Because the more and more we learn, we're seeing things about what this virus can do that we didn't see from the studies in China or in Europe. For example, right now, children presenting with COVID-19, who actually have a very strange inflammatory syndrome, very similar to Kawasaki's syndrome. I think we better be careful if we are not cavalier in thinking that children are completely immune to the deleterious effects. So again, you're right in the numbers that children in general do much, much better than adults and the elderly, and particularly those with underlying conditions. But I am very careful and hopefully humble in knowing that I don't know everything about this disease, and that's why I'm very reserved in making broad predictions. Thank you.
First of all, Dr. Paul, such a brilliant eye doctor, giving us advice on a deadly infectious disease. Tom Hanks from Castaway called. He'd like the beginnings of his beard back. You fucking idiot. And excuse my French, demonetized. But somebody has to talk out and speak out against this insanity and zealotry. Because he is a zealot. And let's not forget, folks, that Rand Paul, because he doesn't know anything, and he's not an expert, and he doesn't give a shit about other people, went to the Senate gym with symptoms of coronavirus while waiting for results and infected a whole lot of people. So I don't really want to hear a damn word from Rand Paul. And I'm not saying Fauci is king. I know there's conspiracy theories about Fauci. But I think I'm going to listen to Fauci if I want to protect my children. I don't have any, but a lot of you do. Rather than that brilliant eye doctor, Rand Paul. And let me explain to Rand Paul, since apparently he missed this day of class in medical school to be an eye doctor. Dr. Paul, the reason why you need a national policy rather than a school district by school district policy, you fucking moron. Sorry, Jen. Gotta let it out. Is because if you open districts in Kentucky, where you represent, where cases are down, well, guess what? What if several students from that Kentucky, what if their parents recently traveled to, I don't know, New York or somewhere else with a higher case count, and their parents are carriers of the coronavirus without symptoms, and their children are around their parents all the time? Like Dr. Fauci said, we don't know everything about this illness. The children might be less susceptible to carrying it, but what if the children, because there have been children that have gotten coronavirus. And by the way, we're talking about high school too, so you could have 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds carrying coronavirus. What if their parents travel? What if they take a drive across state lines or into other communities outside of the district that have high case counts? they could transmit it to other children. And like Anthony Fauci said, it might not be coronavirus that they get, but they're now finding that children and younger people are getting something else that's similar to, I think you said, Coxsackie. So it's not just about district by district or city by city or town by town. Until you control the virus nationally, you have to be very, very careful. And by the way, even the experts like Fauci do not know everything. Trust me, I don't generally just believe whatever the government says. That's why I never bought that Russia hacked the DNC. I never bought weapons of mass destruction. My first impulse is to think the government's lying. But Fauci and these medical experts don't really have a motivation to lie. Yes, I know the conspiracy theories that this is all one big scam and they're working for Big Pharma. I get it. There's no evidence of that. Kawasaki, thank you. So if Rand Paul makes you angry, then I got something that's going to make you want to punch someone. Thank you for the $5 in the GoFundMe. Harris, thank you for the $5 in the GoFundMe. Daniel, we are now $145 away from $101,000 raised. So keep it coming in the GoFundMe. Even $5 makes a big difference. Let's keep going. So I actually, I watch CNN so you don't have to, but I started watching CNBC so you don't have to. I want to see what the criminals that run the United Corporations of America are doing and talking about as they steal our money and make profits off of mass death, because that's happening right now. So I started watching CNBC, and I came across this gem this morning. And I hope you're sitting down, folks. I hope you're not on an empty stomach. We got 230 people watching, by the way. 148 of you have pressed that like button. Can I get another 100 of you to please press that like button? And to the 3 of you that disliked, what are you doing? Fake it till you make it. Like. Even if you're a troll, just like. The more people that press the thumbs up button, the more people that see the live stream. That's how it works. So Jim Cramer is, what is he? Power Lunch, or I don't know, some title. He's got a show on CNBC. I forget what it's called. Let's listen to his brilliance, because if you didn't know, after the bankers stole your money and crashed the global economy in 2008, nobody went to jail. No bankers went to jail. After ExxonMobil lied and hid evidence of climate change for decades, none of their executives went to jail. So now Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, thank you, Suffer Jim, $2. Jordan, you have to put some dollars in the swear jar. I appreciate it, Suffer Jim. Sometimes you just got to say fuck. Elon Musk, because he's a lunatic zealot, is saying to hell with Governor Newsom, to hell with Alameda County in California. I'm opening up the Tesla factory, and if anyone gets arrested, it should be me. I'll be on the front lines as they come with the handcuffs. Well, Jim Cramer on CNBC, apparently laws don't matter if you're a corporate CEO. Health experts, what they say, do not matter. And President Trump chimed in agreeing that Elon Musk should break the law. So, as I've always said, we only have laws for black people, poor white people, indigenous people, Latino people, poor people without power or lobbyists. But there are no laws for the powerful. Let's take a look at Jim Cramer's brilliance on this matter.
Tesla's up 2% pre-market as Elon Musk tweeted yesterday. Tesla is restarting production today against Alameda County rules. I will be on the line with everyone else. If anyone is arrested, I ask that it only be me. Plant was shut down for 5 weeks, Jim, and it sounds like you think he has maybe not legal standing, but moral standing to do what he's doing here.
Well, look, I think that he is a zealot. I think he is correct in thinking that the whole thrust of this country is to put people to work. Why do we presume that he can't do it in a fashion that's safe? I do not know. I mean, this is not Tyson, okay? This is not Smithfield. And why do we think this man necessarily is going to put people at risk? When I look at my Twitter column, there are two kinds of people. There are people who think that he's the greatest, and people who think that he's willing to sacrifice people on the altar of profit. Now, he may not be as concerned about COVID as every person in the world, but there's no indication that he's willing to sacrifice people's lives. Why can't they make a deal? I don't understand this. It's time to open up that factory, and I think he's dead right. I don't want to violate the law, but come on. This is... Do we not want this factory open? Secretary Mnuchin wants it open. I don't know. Do we have to presume
We talked about it with him. Yeah. No, we covered this with the secretary yesterday. In fact, here's what he told us.
I agree with Elon Musk. He's one of the biggest employers and manufacturers in California, and California should prioritize doing whatever they need to do to solve those health issues so that he can open quickly and safely. Where they're going to find, as he's threatened, he's moving his production to a different state.
Jimmy.
Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by an old friend.
In fact, here's what he told us.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to try something so you can hear it a little louder.
As Elon Musk tweeted yesterday, Tesla is restarting production today against Alameda County rules. I will be on the line with everyone else. If anyone is arrested, I ask that it only be me. Plant was shut down for 5 weeks, Jim, and it sounds like you think he has maybe not legal standing, but moral standing to do what he's doing here.
Well, look, I think that he is a zealot.
As Elon Musk,
I think he is correct in thinking that the whole thrust of this country is to put people to work. Why do we presume that he can't do it in a fashion that's safe? I do not know. I mean, this is not Tyson, okay? This is not Smithfield. And why do we think this man necessarily is going to put people at risk? When I look at my Twitter column, there are two kinds of people. There are people who think that he's the greatest, and people who think that he's willing to sacrifice people on the altar of profit. Now, he may not be as concerned about COVID as every person in the world, but there's no indication that he's willing to sacrifice people's lives. Why can't they make a deal? I don't understand this. It's time to open up that factory, and I think he's dead right. I don't want to violate the law, but come on. This is... Do we not want this factory open? Secretary Mnuchin wants it open. I don't know. Do we have to presume?
We talked about it with him. Yeah. No, we covered this with the secretary yesterday. In fact, here's what he told us.
I agree with Elon Musk. He's one of the biggest employers and manufacturers in California.
All right. I'll fix the audio for stuff tomorrow. I think it was something to do with my recording system. But basically, you have Jim Cramer, who, by the way, makes $10 million a year. So definitely totally in step with the worker bees of America. You have Jim Cramer, literally, if you couldn't hear, saying, I don't understand why Elon Musk shouldn't be allowed to open Tesla. Other manufacturers are able to open, and why can't he do it safely? What's the holdup here? You know, America is founded on putting people to work. He said, America is about putting people to work. I don't know. Putting people to work during a deadly pandemic? I'm not sure that's what America was founded on. Just my thoughts. he also says that why can't they make a deal? Why would it be unsafe for the workers? Well, like Rand Paul, who's an eye doctor, Jim Cramer apparently doesn't understand basic health and doesn't even understand, or maybe he just doesn't care. Maybe he just doesn't care about the current trends. If you look at the current trends in the United Corporations of America, there's 8 states where cases are increasing. One of them is California, where Elon Musk's Tesla factory is, in Alameda County. So that's why, since Jim Cramer didn't seem to understand it, well, the other car companies are opening up. Okay, well, those other car companies aren't in California, where it's one of 8 states where cases are increasing. And oh, by the way, not that Jim Cramer, who makes $10 million annually, gives a shit, but as I learned today, a lot of Tesla workers are bussed in from hours south of Alameda County, from the Central Valley of California, which includes places like Fresno. Well, Fresno on Monday just confirmed 60 new cases of coronavirus, not to mention the other parts of Central Valley that have been hit hard by coronavirus. So busing, when you have a lot of workers that are bussed in from hours away in a state where the count is increasing, you don't open the factory. By the way, Tesla already has massive complaints about working conditions and workers' rights, to the point where workers are trying to unionize, and Elon Musk is another Jeff Bezos trying to squash any type of unionization effort. So, between Rand Paul and the Republican death cult, and CNBC, and Fox is pushing this bullshit too, between all of them, they are literally acting like they know more than the health experts. They're literally just ignoring the actual numbers in front of them. And saying, go back to work. Why would there be a problem? Why wouldn't it be safe? There's ways to socially distance. Well, for Jim Cramer, who, makes $10 million a year, I'm sure he's able to socially distance. I'm sure he's a decent distance away from his colleagues at CNBC. Sure, he's got great medical care. What does it matter about the workers at Tesla? We need Elon Musk to make money. We need the corporations to make money. I'm sure Tesla, by the way, I haven't looked, it's all one big cesspool. I'm sure Tesla has done some sponsorships. I know they've sponsored other media companies. I don't know about CNBC. By the way, big announcement here. Oh, it didn't load for me yet, so I won't make the announcement. I'll wait till it loads for me. So this is the type of zealotry and insanity going on. And by the way, somebody posted on Twitter, well, Jordan, who's forcing the workers to come back to work? If they don't feel safe, they don't have to come back to work. Hey, idiot tweeter, you think Elon Musk has a paid sick leave for workers that don't come to work because they're afraid for their lives? And do you think these workers can afford not to come into work if Master Musk is calling them? You think Elon Musk isn't going to try to do some funny business like they're doing in Ohio and other states to try and have a website or something that exposes workers that are refusing to come into work because they're scared for their lives and don't want to get infected and transfer it to their children? There's Ohio and other states have employers literally trying to blow the whistle on workers that won't come into work because they don't want to get coronavirus so that they could screw those workers out of getting unemployment. You think Elon Musk, of all people, isn't going to do that? I mean, you can't make this. I have said it before coronavirus. We live in the United Corporations of America, and we live in an economic Hunger Games, and Mr. Musk is part of that economic Hunger Games. And idiots like Jim Cramer and Rand Paul, who know nothing, are willing, based on their own ego, their own machismo, their own distorted dystopian view of what America is. If you didn't hear it, Jim Cramer said, America was founded on putting people to work. That's all. We're just cogs in the machine. That's what America's about. By the way, we got 300 people watching right now. 221 of you have pressed that like button. Can I get another 75 of you to press that like button? Eddie Lopez, holy cow, Eddie, money! $101,000 raised thanks to Eddie Lopez. $145 donation. Eddie, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Jen, thanks you too. We are now $9,000 away from the goal, $110,000. And not to interrupt my flow here, and again, apologies for the audio, I'll get it fixed for tomorrow. Just so you know, we want to update you live on where your money is going. I told you yesterday, we upgraded to the top of the line Live View. Live View is the mobile unit that we use when we're in the field. We had an opportunity to get it at half price. So Live View 600, we currently have Live View 300, which is the level under Live View 600. Live View 600 is the best Live View offers. I don't want to get into the tech because I'd be making it up, but basically tech-wise, it's as good as it gets as far as going live as flawlessly as possible, particularly in remote areas. So, for example, we might want to go to Navajo Nation and cover the coronavirus's devastation there when it's safe for us to do so. With our current Live View, we wouldn't be able to go live there. It wouldn't work in remote areas like that. So we just purchased the new Live View for $8,000. We got it. It usually would have been $16,000 for us. We got it at $8,000 because they need to sell something during coronavirus. So that's money we're spending on tech that we desperately needed. We did have problems during the campaign with buffering and tech stuff, so hopefully this will be it. This is what major outlets use when they don't have a satellite truck. When I was at Bernie rallies or any rallies, this is what the local news and others were using. You can't really build a media company without having the best tech. And because we don't have any corporate fat cat donors, because we don't take monies from the banks, the fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, we are asking you. So thank you for coming through. We're also spending money on advertising because if you haven't noticed, YouTube's hiding us. So we're spending a considerable amount of money right now to boost our advertising. Jen could tell you a little bit more about that on the members call tomorrow night. Hint, hint, reminder, we have our members call tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern time, just for members. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up as a member for as low as 16 cents a day. That would be $5 a month. So now that I've ranted about Jim Cramer and Rand Paul, and keep it coming, $9,000 away from $110,000 raised. Thank you, Eddie, once again for getting us there. Now I got to go to the Democrats' $3 trillion, if you want to call it a bill. On the surface, it looks very nice. But when you actually look under the hood of the vehicle, it's more cake for the bourgeoisie and more crumbs for you and me. Thank you, Catherine Garrett, $50 in the super chat. Woohoo! Thanks, Status Coup, for the great reporting on the road. Makes me tired just imagining all the work you guys. If it makes you tired, imagine how we feel. I'm tired. But somebody's got to do the work, and Jen and I and Colin are happy to do it. Thank you for the $50. So Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats put forward a $3 trillion bill today, which honestly is dead on arrival anyway, because McConnell and Trump has said they're not going to move on it. Let's give more time to see how the $2 trillion sham bill, the $2 trillion bank robbery that they passed originally with Nancy and Chuck Schumer's help, because the Democrats went along with this devastating original bill, How many of you have even got your unemployment yet? The state offices are overrun. They can't handle this level of unemployment benefits. How many of you have even gotten your $12 crumb cake yet? So this one, this $3 trillion, let me give you a few of the major bullets here. You got $1 trillion in state and local aid. I'm going to explain to you why that is actually not what you think it is. Another extension of the $600 unemployment benefits, which again, in theory, is a good thing if people could get it right away, which they are not getting it right away. $200 billion in hazard pay, that's not nearly enough. Second round of direct checks, talking about the $1,200 crumb cake. So I'm not good at math, but $1,200. If you haven't gotten the original $1,200 yet, okay, well, when are you going to get this one? It's not relief if you don't get it now. And $1,200 is not enough. In addition to this, okay, so let's start with the $1 trillion of local and state aid, which Jen, I should say, part of why we're trying to raise more money on the GoFundMe is because Colin, myself, Jen had a call last night. We're going to get me a totally new laptop, a souped up laptop, the best you could get, fastest processor, most RAM, most everything. It probably will cost us about $3,500 to $4,000 to get it. So that's another thing we need, because I need a better laptop for live broadcasting. This one is not good. So we're going to trade in this one, and hopefully it offsets some of the costs, but we need a different laptop for me to go live. Putting that aside, I could tell you from reporting on the ground in cities that the corporate media has all but abandoned, when federal government allocates money to the states, I'll give you the example of the Flint water crisis. Now 6 years, still with no clean water, still no justice in Flint, not one person in prison. When $170 million under President Obama and the Democratic Congress was passed for Flint, I could tell you for fact, maybe a quarter of that money actually went to Flint, city of Flint, towards water relief. The rest got diverted because the money didn't go directly to citizens of Flint. It went to the governor at that time, Rick Snyder. So when you allow money to go to governors, whether Democrat or Republican, I always tell you it's not the politicians making the decisions, it's their donors on the Democratic side and the Republican side. So I guarantee you the nearly $1 trillion going to states, cities, and towns, that money, it's not going directly to you if you live in those states, cities, and towns. It's going to banks. It's going to law firms. It's going to real estate developers. It's going to nonprofits. It's going to private foundations. It's going to chambers of commerce, state, city, local. All of this might sound good, but is that money going to all of those entities, which majority of those entities donate a lot of money to, the governors of the state, the mayors of the cities and towns? Colin, feel free to explain why we're going with that. Trust me, we're not just getting like a $4,000 laptop because we feel like spending a lot of money, but we'd rather spend more money now to get the right laptop than having to buy, go on the cheap and still have live streaming problems. How is it? Again, this money is not like a refundable debit card going to you, the consumer, freaking out about paying rent, your mortgage, your utilities, your student loans, your car payments, your groceries for you and your kids. It's going to the governors of the states, to the mayors, and I promise you it's going to be a mix of goodies for donors and taking money that's supposed to go towards economic relief to shore up your pension situation, to shore up your other budget gaps that were there before the coronavirus pandemic, to balance the books for your water department deficit, more money for police and this, that, not going to the actual working people struggling in your cities and towns. That's why instead of $1 trillion going to state, city, and towns, to those governments, how about just giving the money directly to citizens and consumers? But they don't want to do that. Rashida Tlaib has put forward a bill. I think it said mint the effing coin. Well, mint the fucking coin. Why am I holding back now? I've already dropped 20 F-bombs. Swear jar. But she put forward a bill, refundable debit card, $2,000 a month right now, and just replenish it at the start of every month till the end of the pandemic. Essentially UBI right now. I wonder why they're not doing that. Because if they did that, it can't get diverted to the donors, to the real estate developers, to the lawyers who donate to politicians, to the corporate CEOs, to the Chamber of Commerce folks. I could tell you, I always get, well, what do you mean Obama's at fault? Congress gave Flint $170 million. Go ask the people of Flint how much of that money actually went to Flint. Go ask the people of New Orleans how much of the relief money actually went to relief of Hurricane Katrina. Go ask where the BP spill happened. I could do a whole goddamn documentary on money stolen, earmarked for certain disasters, diverted and gone to donors, to corporations. It's a sin. But because Nancy Pelosi put it on paper and the media breathlessly just regurgitates things like this is a good thing. Well, I don't personally trust the state and local government, particularly the governors and mayors who are all corrupt in their own fashion. Sorry to be so cynical, but I've kind of been around the country for the last 5 years. I know what I'm talking about. I don't really trust them to disperse the money in a way that will get you rehired or get you the health care you need. And in addition to that empty rhetoric of $1 trillion for states and local government, guess what else Speaker Pelosi's priorities were? A corporate lobbyist bailout was snuck into this. Expanding the Paycheck Protection Program loan to all 501c4s and 501c6 under 500 employees. Oh, guess who 501c6 are? Lobbyists on K Street. 501c4s are dark money groups. She also added into there rolling back the SALT cap, which, to dumb it down for you, rolling back the SALT cap will help wealthy Americans in places like California and New York. People making six figures, not people like you and me. And before this bill went out, this is the opposition to Trump we're talking about. The quote-unquote opposition. I put opposition in quotes. By the way, we have almost 400 people watching, so if you haven't pressed the like button, please press that like button. But on top of $1 trillion to governors of states and mayors to loot the treasury and give it out to their donors, on top of that, on top of the corporate bailout, expanding the PPP program to corporate lobbyists, on top of the SALT cap reduction rollback, which helps wealthy Americans in San Francisco. No offense, some of you watching might be wealthy people. I'm not saying you don't deserve a little something, but frankly, I don't think you need help before workers in fast food, warehouses, workers making, $75,000 or less. I think they should get help immediately. On top of all that, Pelosi and the Democrats signaled before today's bill came out that their main concern is working people double dipping. Ugh! For example, they don't want someone who is receiving more unemployment money to also receive money through the Paycheck Protection Program. They don't want working people double dipping into different pots of money. So if you're getting unemployment, we don't want you to also get money through the small business loans. We don't want you to get unemployment and a $1,200 check. What a sin if you get both. It's absolutely insane. And by the way, I've been asking, and Jimmy's been asking, Jimmy's he's not asking, he's been throwing bombs. God bless him, I love him. But I've been asking, where is the progressive opposition? When I'm talking about progressives, I say Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, AOC. Do they have duct tape over their mouths? Why aren't they speaking up against this watered down crumbs that Pelosi is offering? And again, it really doesn't matter concretely because it's dead on arrival anyway. Trump and McConnell are not going for this crappy bill Pelosi put forward today. But it's important to state your demands. It's important to go as far left during Great Depression level unemployment. Remember, yesterday we went over real unemployment is at 25% right now. That's the same levels during the Great Depression. And it's probably going to go higher than that. So why haven't progressives been screaming? Does Nancy Pelosi have some mafia we don't know about that are threatening them and their families? I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but what's going on here? Well, it seems, apparently, Pramila Jayapal, sort of, finally spoke up against Nancy Pelosi. A caucus call among House Democrats on Tuesday evening grew contentious as a key progressive leader, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, confronted Pelosi about a liberal policy priority being left out of the next coronavirus package. Multiple Democrats on the call described the exchange as intense. At the very end of the 2-hour call, Jayapal complained that the bill in which the government would temporarily cover payroll for struggling businesses, like most European governments are doing right now without pause, was left on the cutting room floor. The Washington Democrat voiced concern that the legislation was largely being written behind closed doors. Jayapal's bill did have support from across the Democratic caucus, but senior Democrats point out that she had no bill text, no budget score, and no Republicans behind it. Oh, we got to get the Republicans behind it. In response, Pelosi disputed Jayapal's comments about a top-down process, arguing committee chairs have taken member input in the drafting of their specific selections, as she reiterated that Democrats would keep exploring Jayapal's proposal when there is text. Pelosi ended the call by having House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal reiterate that his committee preferred the Employment Retention Tax Credit. Oh, more tax credits from the Democrats. The rare display of drama from Jayapal is a reflection of broader concerns within the caucus. Several members feel that the House Democrat leaders have written trillions of dollars worth of legislation in the Speaker's suite without meaningful input from rank and file. It gets better, though. It gets better. So, let's see. Pelosi also said, let me find it. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer told reporters Tuesday that he and Pelosi, quote, believe that Jayapal's proposal has great merit to it. Oh, I love when your parents or somebody above you that don't want to give you what you want and deserve say, your arguments has a lot of validity to it. But they believe in Jayapal's proposal has great merit to it, and said it could be considered in future relief bills. Oh, it's always future relief bills. Well, because the Democrats, who are bought off like the Republicans, didn't fight to begin with in the first bill, they now have no leverage or negotiating power. So this sack of shit that Pelosi put forward isn't getting passed because McConnell and Trump have said, we're not touching this. We want to give more time for the first bank heist, the $2 trillion, to have some effects, which it's not going to. So they're saying to Jayapal, no, we can't put government covering payrolls in because we don't have a reason other than our donors won't let us. It's all the donors making decisions. It's not Pelosi. It's not Schumer. It's not Steny Hoyer. It's their donors. That's who makes the decisions. I mean, you cannot make this up, how pathetic this is. And by the way, not only is it pathetic, but it's also going to help reelect Trump. Because as me and Nomiki Konst talk about, and I'm about to play my interview with Nomiki, 400 people watching right now. Make sure you've pressed that like button. As we talk about, here's the thing. Does anybody think, based on what we've seen from Donald Trump, does anybody really think that Donald Trump, come July or August, if he's down 6 to 7 points in all the critical states, we're talking Wisconsin, we're talking Michigan, we're talking Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Arizona. Does anybody think that Donald Trump will snap his finger and say, Medicare for all? Right now, we're going to cover everybody through Medicare. This is unprecedented times. I got to make, it's not a very Republican thing to do. Remember he said that when he was running? Well, it's not a very Republican thing to do, but we got to cover everybody. But now he actually has the power to do it. And he could take executive actions without Congress. Does anybody think that Donald Trump, since the Democrats' offer has been so pathetic, Donald Trump won't hijack Rashida Tlaib's bill or Pramila Jayapal's bill and just say, to hell with it, $2,000 a month right now for every American? Or government's going to cover payrolls. And guess what? Mitch McConnell, he'll go along with it because once Trump gets reelected, snap of their fingers, done. Because you got to remember, Mitch McConnell, the legacy that he cares about is Supreme Court and continuing to stuff the judiciary, stuff courts all across this country with batshit conservative zealots. And he can't do that without Trump in office. And God bless her, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a couple others, pretty old, have had some health problems. So McConnell will go along with some actual help for workers if it keeps a Republican in the White House to rubber stamp all the terrible things he's doing. And because the Democrats are opening it up for Trump to out-left, Trump will do it. I'm telling you, Trump will do this. I covered him in 2016 on the road. He doesn't have any ideology other than Trump. Goldilocks 369, $10 in the super chat. Hey, Jordan and Jen, I'm watching with my guy and girls, Carol and Claire, in Virginia. I won't see any crumb cake. Didn't file in 19. We might be living at the Salvation Army, but we hope this helps Status Coup. Goldilocks, thank you so much. Please, for those people that are worried about living at Salvation Army, do not donate to us. I don't want to make anybody's situation any worse. By the way, we got 420 viewers watching, so make sure you smoke a pipe. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Goldilocks. I hope you don't end up living at Salvation Army, but thank you so much for the donation. That's what I really find amazing and kind of warms my heart. Even people that are facing struggles themselves see the value and importance of independent journalism so much that they're willing to contribute to us even when they're feeling insecure. I mean, that means a lot. And it shows you we're doing something that people really feel they need. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, the reason the stream is going a little slower right now is because I'm uploading Nomiki's interview. So once it's uploaded, the stream will stop buffering. Might take a minute or two more. So, bottom line, right, the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi put forward a bill that was really just a messaging bill that they will not be able to get through the Senate or Trump to sign. And they didn't even have the will or the fight to put the right message out. The government has the ability right now to give direct relief through refundable debit cards like Rashida Tlaib put forward, to Bernie's plan that Kamala Harris jumped on and Ed Markey jumped on. They could do it right now. $2,000 per individual, $4,000 per married couple, for an additional $2,000 per child. They could do it right now. The government prints money for war. The government prints money for tax cuts for the wealthy. The government prints money for oil subsidies. The government prints money for bank subsidies. They could print the money for working people. And they're not doing it because Pelosi's donors won't let her. And that's why we need a status quo in this country. That's why everybody needs to realize we don't live in the United States of America. We live in the United Corporations of America. And it is with that I segue to my interview with my former colleague, Nomiki Konst. If you're liking the interview and the content, please consider contributing to our GoFundMe. We're $9,000 away now from our ultimate $110,000 goal. The screen's going to go black for a second as I pop in my interview with Nomiki, and I'll be in the super chat while the interview airs. Do-do-do, do-do-do, what will be, will be. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by an old friend, Nomiki Konst. She was a colleague of mine at the Young Turks, now has the Nomiki Show on YouTube. Obviously has kind of been all over the place. Journalist, was also on the DNC Unity Commission, was at the Young Turks, and now kind of getting back into the independent media space. I wanted to talk to you. There's so much to talk about. I mean, let's just start with the breaking news. Pelosi and the Democrats have put forth kind of this dead on arrival bill. Yeah. So you would think they could have went like super big, right, considering it's not going to be passed. On paper, some of the things look good, but in my view, I mean, most of it is toothless. You have nearly $1 trillion going to states and local government, but I think a lot of times money earmarked for states and local government tend to get diverted to donors, private interests, those kind of things. And there's a carve out for lobbyists. There's a carve out for the salt cap reduction, which I'll let you explain. What is this?
I'm not going to explain that.
What is this? What is this proposal from Speaker Pelosi? Is this the resistance we've all been waiting for?
Yeah, this is the resistance we've all been waiting for. This actually happened in real. I mean, I was on air. I've been on air for the last few hours, and I'm catching up as you are. I think ultimately that's it, though. It's you framed it perfectly. If they knew it wasn't going to pass, then why not go big? Or is it just like the symbolism of like, giving something to their donors, the lobbyists? I mean, the lobbyists are smart enough to know that it's not going to pass. So why? What's the agenda here? And I know that they basically gave a giant FU to Pramila Jayapal. I'm going to look that up while we are talking because I want to, frame it. But Pramila Jayapal, of course, is the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. And the Progressive Caucus is like a whole spectrum, people who probably want the branding of being progressive in their districts, but have no problem endorsing Joe Biden in a primary, have no problem taking lobbyist money and corporate PAC money. People have been investigated for financial issues in Congress, who were in scandals where their own partners were put to jail because of their positions in Congress and the banking industry. So this is not a unified progressive caucus. So whatever power and leverage Pramila had, Congressman Jayapal had, it it's minimized by the fact that it's not an actual solidarity caucus. If it was a solidarity caucus, you could come in and push more leverage against Nancy Pelosi. But unfortunately, that's why we need to elect like actual progressives in Congress so you can have a coalition. And it's also what prevents Bernie and AOC from going full throttle. And people criticize them for voting for the CARES Act. It's like, well, they just don't have a unified front there. You have to pick your battles, and it's a very hard thing to say, but it's almost like this general election argument. It's like you've got shit and you've got like deep shit.
Well, what I don't understand is if it's just a messaging bill, because obviously Republicans and Trump, their main focus right now, I wish I was making it up, is to allow Tyson and Elon Musk and all these people to have liability shields when they kill their workers by forcing them to work. But I kind of get the impression, and I say this in jest to my viewers, but I think I mean it now, is the donors are making the decisions. So you would think a replenishable debit card. We're going to adopt Rashida Tlaib's policy, $2,000 a month. I think Bernie, Senator Harris, and Ed Markey have put forward $2,000 a month, $4,000 for married couples. It's not going to get passed. It would be good politics to do so. Sure. And then say Trump and Republicans are fighting for the corporations, but they won't even do that. Why do you think that is?
That's essentially looking at that. I mean, since when do Ed Markey and Bernie Sanders line up with Kamala Harris if it isn't for some sort of marketing bill? I mean, that's what happened when she ran, she co-sponsored, she joined on to Medicare for All. She knew it wasn't going to pass immediately. And then she ran for president and sidestepped as soon as became, the real power structures were coming into play. So I don't know. I mean, my only thought is if Pelosi stands up for these issues now, who's to say she'll, I mean, when the progressives come forward and say, well, we know you, even though that bill didn't pass, and you, why didn't you do it when you actually had the power? Like, there's something, I think, in just the symbolism of being the leader, the Speaker of the House, and pushing for a truly progressive agenda when she knows it's going to lose. But then there are moments behind closed doors where she actually can negotiate a progressive agenda, and she can't. And I think it's more about keeping her house in line, like the power of Nancy Pelosi in the House. There's not enough writing about that, by the way. I'm very fascinated, especially from former Congress members. It'd be interesting to see, former Democrats come out and talk to, maybe there's an author of a book who could talk about the power dynamics, because I'm very curious to see how she works the House that she's in control of. And she does it very well. I'm not saying that we agree with it, but she does it very well.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I mean, it's easy for me to say from the outside, but I don't quite get it because, I mean, Congresswoman AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ro Khanna, Bernie's in the Senate, but all of them are pretty aggressive on most things, but they seem very tentative to speak out against her publicly. This Jayapal thing was the most kind of pushback Speaker Pelosi has received, and it was behind closed doors.
Right.
They have public sentiment on their side, and not just from progressives. Like neoliberal Joe Biden voters are getting laid off. Conservatives are getting laid off.
Right.
Like some of the polls, I mean, I think it was 67% data for progress, 67% support some type of universal basic income right now, higher numbers for a replenishable type every month. So is it that, would you say it's because they don't want to go publicly against Pelosi and the Democrats right now and then be blamed if Trump were to be reelected?
I mean, that's a point, but I think going back to the power of Pelosi, like, what is she holding over them? I mean, will she actually not give them time to speak during hearings, which is big for them? Is it that they'll be put on, weaker committee? I always thought that Bernie's, I tweeted this out when Bernie got out of the race, and I got pushback from every single angle. Conservatives, I had like New York Times reporters calling me. I mean, it's just crazy. And then progressives too. But essentially I said, we forgot as a movement that Bernie is actually not a movement first candidate. He's a Senate first candidate, because at the end of the day, that is where his power lies. And the stuff that is at risk for him is not that a movement dies and he loses the presidency, which is obviously very, very important to him. At the end of the day, it's that he loses what limited power he does have fighting for working people in the Senate as one of the few voices. And he's able to leverage that power because he's an independent, because he says, you know what, I'm not playing these fundraising games that you make. I'm not caucusing with you guys, which is why so many Democrats hate them. I mean, he caucuses with them, but he's not playing the Democratic Party game, which is why so many Democrats hate him, because he's not out there running around and doing fundraisers at the same rate. He still does them, but not at the same rate, because he doesn't want to raise money for Joe Manchin. Mm-hmm. So his power isn't that he's an independent. His leverage was that he was running for president. But as soon as it became clear to them that that probably wasn't going to turn out well, he had to surrender to Obama and Schumer and probably Harry Reid, and they have some sort of leverage over him in the Senate. And that's very hard for progressives to digest, because it's not some democratic system. It is a system in which they hold leverage over progressives until progressives have a large enough number in those positions of power to push back in the right ways. And that's why it's an outside-inside movement. Mm-hmm. You need the outside.
So I take it you're not drinking the Jimmy Dore Kool-Aid these days, that Bernie's a sellout and a fraud and a coward and all these other things. I say that in jest because, like, I love Jimmy, but there are some progressives who were totally on Team Bernie when he was, like, on 60 Minutes as the front runner, and nobody was criticizing the campaign then. But now, because Bernie's not coming out strongly enough, are kind of lashing out. And I criticized Bernie during the campaign on several things, but overall, even, I think you said it at the front, they need reinforcements. I mean, it really is kind of important that, like, the Paula Jean Swearingens of the world get elected, or the other progressives challenging these entrenched incumbents. The reason the Tea Party was able to do anything is, like, 80 of them came in at once.
That's right. And you know, at the end of the day, their interests aligned way more than the interests of the neoliberals and the progressives do. You know, I love Jimmy. I think we both have a good relationship with him, but
I was just bringing him up. He came to mind first, but there's a lot of people now.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really important. These people have voices and influence in the community. I know sometimes I say things and suddenly it becomes part of the ether of, like, progressive, just because I say it on a platform, as I'm sure you do too. Like, suddenly people are discussing, it's almost like they use the same language because we're media voices. He's a media voice, and with that comes great responsibility. But we have to remember as a movement that he's a media voice. And just like NBC and MSNBC and CNN answer to their advertisers, people in digital media answer to clicks. And I think even if it's not intentional, it becomes part. It's like the what's the frog boiling? You know, it's a slow process. And at moments like this, where democracy is just so vulnerable, what are we getting out of calling Bernie a sellout? Mm-hmm. What are you winning out of that? You could put your energy in a million different places that could make actual change right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but you could be putting all of your energy into getting Samalis Lopez in the Bronx elected, or Nabila Islam elected in Georgia. That was a seat that Republicans won by 400 votes, and she's a progressive frontrunner right now. You know, we could be actually shifting change so that they don't have to be in these positions. But if you're just going to criticize all day long, people need to channel their energy somewhere, help direct them. And so that's my perspective is, you know, I believe Bernie is doing the best he can. He made a lot of mistakes in the primary. I think the time to bring that up is in the primary, like you said, and good on you for doing that, because, you know, I fell victim to it too. I didn't want to speak up because I didn't want to challenge Bernie because I wanted him to have the best chances. Right. But he definitely messed up a lot. Yeah. Or he had people on his team hinted. I think that's probably more accurate. There were people there who made some critical errors. But it's done. Now what?
Well, let's before we go forward, because I do want to talk about the DNC and delegates and all this stuff. I want to ask what you think, because you've worked in corporate media, I've worked in corporate media, and now independent media. So we've kind of been inside outside. And to me, for every mistake Bernie made, and there are many, I would also, I spoke with somebody from his campaign earlier today, I won't mention who, and we were both in agreement, like, listen, I know you're above the fray, but like you got to run an ad that Biden's completely lying about his civil rights record and making it up out of thin air. That's just political malpractice. But to me, even more than 2016, because the Bernie blackout was 2016, to me, the media really, really, in an unprecedented way, steered the momentum away from him. I mean, remember, he was on 60 Minutes, like 10 days before Super Tuesday as the front runner. I mean, Chris Matthews was comparing it to the Nazis invading France. And
thank God he's gone as a result.
Yes, progressives really thought, I mean, if it's football, like we're on the 5-yard line. And, Biden won South Carolina, not surprising. I don't think anybody thought it would be by 30 points. And between those 3 days, because, majority of America is not like us. They're not political diehards. They start tuning in like a week before voting in primaries. They were just bombarded by this, I think, kind of a super PAC in 3 days between South Carolina and Super Tuesday. I mean, all the networks carried that rally with Biden and Buttigieg, and Beto came out of retirement. The $100 million in free advertising. And according to the exit polls, I mean, a lot of Biden voters made up their mind in those final days. How critical do you think that kind of media manufacturing consent portion of things played a factor in the total momentum shift?
I think it played a huge factor, but I don't want to put all the blame on that because we knew what was going to happen going into this. And I say that as someone who in 2016 was on CNN several times a day fighting for Bernie and not anymore. I have a lot of criticisms of the mainstream media. I think some of the targets that Bernie campaign made in the mainstream media were probably not the best, or at least how they went about it, because some of it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he wanted to be on TV, he could get on TV whenever he wanted. Literally, he could. It's not that's not the point. It's how you work them. Do you have surrogates who have experience on TV? Do you have surrogates who have relationships on TV? That's actually how presidential campaigns work. There's a lot of surrogates that are activists, but they've never done TV before. The hosts don't know them. I mean, being in this space, you walk in, you run into Jake Tapper, and Jake's like, hey, what's up? DMing me during the primary. But if you're not part of that ecosystem, they're not putting you on. So some of it was absolute agenda. Some of it was just the campaign not having a fully, I don't think any department was fully, maybe except for Vance, I don't think they had a fully I don't know what the right word is, fully staffed department for a leading presidential campaign that had more money than any other race. Mm-hmm. So some of it is just really bad strategies and moves. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault in the comms department. I actually loved all the comms people. I just don't think they had enough. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe there was other leadership probably giving them bad advice. With that being said, yes, there's a blackout. But again, we knew that going in. We're going against the corporate establishment. I think there's a situation in which people want to blame the media for Bernie's loss. Bernie's loss is because he didn't appeal to white working class males that he had last time. And it didn't matter if Biden was fifth in the race or first in the race, he had those people. And that's why David Sirota's argument about Social Security was so powerful, because if you've worked in a presidential campaign, this is just like presidential politics 101. If you want to win a presidential race, you have to look at who are the voters that you're going to lose or you are consistently losing. And they kept talking about expanding the base. They hadn't solidified their own.
Right.
So even if they brought in more students, more Latinos, more whatever demographic, they didn't have the key base that Biden won, which won him the election. We all knew he was going to win South Carolina. We didn't think he was going to get crush Bernie in Michigan.
Right. Well, I also think part of it, I don't know if it was just Bernie's, I mean, we could talk about strategy, but ultimately the candidate is the one making the final decisions. He, Jane, were making a lot of the decisions. I didn't even see that week before Michigan in his speeches, him talking about the TPP that Biden's still actively for,
That's
really. Right. I remember Obama's just devastating ad on Romney where, the workers built the stage to be fired. I mean, you could really make those kind of ads because Biden was really a cheerleader for all these things and kind of just became, I'm not, no, I wouldn't support TPP in its current fashion like 5 minutes ago, but it chose not to do those things. And I think those things would have appealed to that older white working class you're talking about.
Well, it was almost like they didn't want the narrative because they were so affected by the smears of 2016, which obviously you have to do the work to prove that, I am a civil rights, I fought in the civil rights movement. I have all they were correcting the errors of 2016 and not focusing on keeping their own house in order, which, by the way, is the same mistake Hillary Clinton made in the general election. Hillary Clinton was so concerned about expanding her base into Texas and in Arizona that she just didn't show up in Wisconsin. And that is, I think, sometimes what happens when you when you don't have people in your ecosystem who are delivering you the truth. It's like a little bit of yes man syndrome. You read Shattered, Bill Clinton was trying to argue to Hillary Clinton and to John Podesta. They pushed Bill Clinton out. They were like, crazy man who also won elections.
Right.
Might be crazy, might have a lot of bad politics, definitely has a lot of bad politics, but he knew how to win elections. And when the operatives are like, they're the ones who know everything, and that's who's delivering the message to Bernie. Who's to say what Bernie, maybe he was doubting himself, maybe you're moving so fast from somebody, I've run for office before, you're moving so fast sometimes you don't have a moment to even reflect or recognize. And if all you're seeing is rallies, you might think you're doing great in Michigan. And then, and then you have surrogates around you who want to be part of that circle and may not be. Who knows? I mean, I'm not saying, it's just like, it's a little bit of yes man syndrome. I think the difference is and this has been documented, this isn't like me projecting anything, but 2016, there were more people willing to tell Bernie the truth, I think. And I think 2020, they pushed out a lot of, senior advisors pushed out a lot of folks who, might say tough things.
Right.
But, it's a money game. It's like, it's power, right? You want to make sure that if you're the campaign manager, you want your people around and you want to push out anybody who might challenge your strategy because it makes you less powerful. But then you lose.
Absolutely. And moving forward, I do this stuff every day, and I'm kind of confused by all this delegate stuff and all this.
Maddening.
But I will say to you, and I totally, this is not meant disrespectfully because I know you worked hard and everyone else on the platform committee worked hard. To the layman, I'm just like, why is Bernie so focused and progressives so focused on like having equal representation of delegates and like making sure the platform is progressive? Because Joe Biden, I think more than Hillary Clinton, would be like, whatever, let them put whatever they want on paper. We'll have a bonfire once I'm in office. Can you explain why Bernie and that mentality is it's so important to have the platform be as progressive as possible, and also this delegate stuff in terms of Biden made an agreement with Bernie on delegate representation?
So on my last show, which is out right now, I talk about the New York State presidential primary and why we even care. And I basically illustrate that. Like myself, somebody who's been on the platform committee, which was a fight, somebody who served on the Unity Reform Commission, which I know people may not feel like there were reforms that made a difference, but I can tell you Bernie would have had he wouldn't have gone past Iowa if those reforms hadn't happened. He wouldn't even come close in Iowa if those reforms hadn't happened. So, was it perfect? No. We were in the minority. Let me just reiterate. We did not have, we pushed as hard as we could. And some of that was just by like inviting press in. And this was a hearing that normally would never be publicized. So some of it was just public pressure. So
wasn't it the Unity Commission that got the popular vote to be tallied and
Yes.
told to the public for the first time in Iowa?
Yep. And then they tried to spin that, blaming us because, no, you guys chose your Insider app that like was created by developers who don't know. Nobody voted on that. That was Tom Perez like giving something to a person who was totally unqualified to count the popular vote, which also could have just been tallied on paper and called in like it used to be in the old days with Firehouse caucuses. Like what? But they had to turn it into a commodity and monetize it.
Former Hillary staffers too, but
of course, exactly. So they're always going to find some angle on it. But it was like Tom being like, "I know a guy." I know a guy who can do that for me. So, the reforms were important. And the reason I say this is because I wish Bernie would talk less about the platform. I honestly don't think he understands. I think that and that's okay. Like, he shouldn't understand the inner workings and the political dynamics of the Democratic Party because he's an independent. He lives in Vermont. He didn't come up through machine politics. And it serves him in a way that he doesn't play that game. With that being said, the platform you so accurately said is crap. Like, if every single Democratic candidate that got the nomination in America had to run on that platform, I would feel if the president had to run on that platform, I would feel like it was a mission worth serving. But that's not the case. Hillary Clinton, it was a drag-out fight. And I think part of it just came down to personalities. Like, there was just all this pent-up energy, and we just all wanted to fight each other. I mean, it was way more toxic in 2016. No, people don't want to hear that. It was way more toxic. It got personal. People got threats to their homes. I did. Blacklisted, like really blacklisted, fired from their industries. Just a lot of hit pieces, smear pieces. Yeah, Save Sirota gets some of that. Obviously, Nina and Bree got some of that, but it was a little bit different because.
So the rumors about Neera Tanden sending out soldiers in the night is true?
Figuratively, yes, I guess.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, but Neera didn't have as much interest because she wasn't planning on being like I personally don't think that they don't know whether or not Biden's going to win, so they're not going to put all their energy into it. Right. He couldn't, there's too many unpredictable factors. So the platform committee, whatever, not really worth the fight. You're going to send in, first off, the convention is going to be in real time as of right now, Milwaukee. So not only are you asking working people to run for delegate, which is a really hard process, then they have to raise money, buy plane tickets now to go to Milwaukee, share hotel rooms to go to Milwaukee, or wherever they're going to do the platform committee meetings, because it's usually in a different place, and be held up in a room possibly weeks earlier than the convention and fight it out. For what? Because in Hillary Clinton's case, we banned fracking. It was a huge fight. 2 days later, she had a fundraiser with one of the biggest fracking CEOs. With that being said, I was angry about the New York stuff. I was like, everyone's putting all their energy into the New York presidential primary. Like, it's hurting down ballot races, sure, but I was sitting there thinking, I don't know if it is. I think anybody who is voting for Bernie knows he's not running, and if they actually were that passionate of Bernie supporters, they're probably already aware of their challenger races in their district. So if they still want to turn out to vote for him, they're probably already aware of the challengers. Otherwise, most people think he's not running anymore. They're not showing up. So I was like, I'm not going to go to bat for, and then Andrew Yang's pushing it out there. It's because Andrew Yang wants to run for mayor of New York. Like, I was just like, nobody understands what's going on here. To actually fight this and win it, there really has to be a true coalition. And Andrew Cuomo's just protecting all the incumbents and his positioning in the DNC. But I had a call with Larry Cohen, and he had to remind me something, because I was like, Larry, I need to understand why you're fighting this fight. It doesn't make sense to me.
And for people to know, Larry Cohen, Our Revolution.
Yes, and he was the former president of CWA, an international president, who's the former chair of Bernie's campaign in 2016, and he was the vice chair of the Unity Reform Commission. And he said, Nomiki, you're forgetting something. And I said, what? He goes, all the reforms that we passed that took a lot, personal attacks, smears, I got a death threat in a hotel room, it was like a whole thing. For 2 years, they all expire at the convention. So not only would all of the internal reforms of the DNC expire, but all of the presidential reforms, and we go back to superdelegates, we go back to basically closed primaries in multiple states, potentially, there's just there's a whole list of reforms, and then it gives more power to the lobbyists in the party to expand their already appointed base. I mean, right now, there's the group of people in the DNC membership that are holding everything up are the appointed members that Tom Perez appoints. And how funny, all of them are in the industry of lobbying and weapons manufacturing and pharmaceuticals. But the actual DNC membership that gets elected, there's some people who have conflicts, but I think a good chunk of the elected people are really honest activists, and I think you look at like, where did Keith Ellison do well? It was like most of the elected DNC members. Where did Tom Perez do well? All of the appointed like lobbyists, horrible people, which we tried to ban. And we did reduce some of their power in the DNC. But let me tell you, it's not just that we're going to lose those reforms. They're going to come back with a vengeance and make it harder, even worse for progressives to. So this is the only front that we have right now internally in the DNC is these reforms. And that's why they're having people, why the presidential primary process is important. But also why Bernie should have stayed in the race. Even if he knew he was going to lose, he should have stayed in the race longer just as a little bit of leverage. And to make the case for like FDR, I mean, there's just so many things he could have done to push Biden further.
Yeah, because Biden currently, I don't even know what he's calling for. He's calling for more testing, which is like, yeah, duh. He's not calling for expanded healthcare, fight Obamacare, restore Obamacare, but who could afford Obamacare if everyone's laid off? I mean, it's just crazy. Which brings me to me, one of the most dangerous parts and inadequate parts of Nancy Pelosi's bill is we both know President Trump's ideology is not conservative or anything other than just like victory.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's possible if he's down like, across the board, 7 to 10 points in these states come August, you don't think he'll say enough, Medicare for all?
Yeah.
You know what? We need to start. He'll just adopt Tlaib's bill and just say it was mine. And you want to know something? I think Mitch McConnell and the Republicans would go along with it for short term and snap their fingers if he's reelected and all be gone. And he did a great job in terms of marketing of running to the left of Hillary Clinton on a lot of things. And now he actually has the power to enact those things like while he's running. Right. What do you think in terms of the fact that Pelosi and the Democratic Party, the corporate wing, is basically proposing a lot of real like crumbs? I mean, even the good stuff like unemployment benefits. I mean, state offices are overrun. The $1,200 checks, a majority of people have not received. So do you think there's an opportunity that Trump could really, really just do another Houdini act, go run to the left, and everyone on MSNBC is shocked come November?
All the never Trumpers who control MSNBC are shocked in November. Yeah, I think that's real. I think there's a, you'd have to see which industries, because I do think McConnell's very conscious of like not screwing with the Koch brothers or Koch brother or whatever industries are holding the Republican Party hostage, just like the Democrats and the insurance companies. But listen, I mean, you said it so well. Insurance companies, this is why they're putting in that COBRA provision. Insurance companies are just as much at risk of going under because of unemployment rising. And the answer would be to just pass Medicare for all. That also is a business perspective. Like small businesses who are staying afloat, do you think that they want to spend all this money on insurance? And the alternative, as they proved very well, is there is no alternative unless it's Medicare for all. So there might be this like populist approach if they can find a way to somehow help businesses out. I don't know what it would be, but they can't create a Medicare for all that affects their bottom line. And I don't know if health insurance companies were ever their bottom line. I think health insurance companies definitely support Republicans, but they also definitely support Democrats. And that became a really clear issue in the primary because, how many Americans, majority of Americans want Medicare for all or some version of Medicare for all, however you want to, process it out, but it's Medicare for all. And like, it was the topic of like every debate, 70% of every debate. Like, should we do it? And it's like, so I think you can expect a couple of things from him. He'll definitely go full populist on some fronts. I don't know about the checks, though. Maybe he just times it out so it's like right before the election. I don't know if they're willing to give up that much money.
Well, I think Mitch McConnell's top priority is Supreme Court and his legacy of appointing judges across the board all over the country, which he's not going to be able to do as easily if Biden's in there. So I think the Kochs will let him temporarily do that. Real quick, lightning round. Who does Biden pick as VP? I say Klobuchar. I
think there's a very serious. Yeah, I think Klobuchar is a real But I also, I mean, I know this is lightning round. I really don't think there's a great solution for him in terms of, I mean, he doesn't need Klobuchar to win the Rust Belt. He's the one who's bringing that added. I think he needs to create, there needs to be an appearance of supporting, like, being woke. He just, like, needs to lean in on that. And I think Kamala's probably it in the end.
You see, I don't think he would pick Klobuchar based on states. I think they're delusional, like Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I really think they think there's enough moderate Republicans and never Trumpers out there to make up for, giving progressives the middle finger. And Klobuchar is fairly popular among, moderates and even Republicans. She polls better than others, so that was my guess.
Yeah,
but
no,
Harris. Good. Maybe so. And
maybe not. I don't know, because I think that there's also this. If you have a strong, they're going after racist white dudes, right? Mm-hmm. And like sexist white dudes that didn't support Hillary but supported Obama. So they're probably taking that into consideration, like whatever progress he can make in winning back those voters, who doesn't negate it.
Right. It's true. And lastly, tell my audience where they could find you on YouTube. What else you're up to?
Thank you, Jordan. You can find me at The Nomiki Show on YouTube and on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. We do a lot of like special interviews there. I'm sure you guys know the whole thing with Patreon. And I definitely ask people to support Matriarch organization I'm on the board of. We're supporting working class women progressive women running for Congress, and they all need so much support right now because of COVID. They can't go out there and knock on doors, and they already were facing uphill battles, but now it's much harder because all of their opponents have a lot of money to just buy ads on TV, and they have to like make 10 times as many phone calls. So support them as much as possible. We're working with them really closely, and very proud of the slate that's running. They're all like badasses, basically.
Yeah, and I think one of the things out of Bernie's 2016 legacy was this surge in women running and winning. So hopefully that continues.
Hope so too. Keep up the amazing work, Jordan. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you. That was Nomiki Konst, host of the Nomiki Show. I used to work with her at the Young Turks. Good interview. You know, I have to say something to our viewers because I was seeing some dismay in the chat, shall we say. And I'm always going to keep it real, even if it risks, people not watching. I don't, there's no price for integrity. I think that a lot of times when people are angry, upset, insecure, whatever, they latch on to black or white thinking. In the progressive space, it's been called, to me, this person's a sellout. This person's a sellout. I mean, this has been going on since 2016. Remember, when Bernie endorsed Hillary Clinton, people were jumping off the bandwagon. He's a sellout. He's a this. And then they came racing back to the bandwagon when he ran again. So I think it's really easy, oftentimes, for people, just because they're worked up and understandably upset and angry, that they start assigning blame at the wrong places, or they think very narrow-mindedly. It's not to say that Bernie doesn't deserve criticism. I mean, I've been criticizing him since the campaign, and honestly, I lost subscribers when I was criticizing him during the campaign. I was criticizing him for every debate performance, saying, take off the fucking gloves, Bernie. Enough of this my friend Joe bullshit. I was criticizing him, for not going after him on his civil rights record. I've been criticizing him now. Why aren't you organizing the army? Why aren't you organizing your massive email list for a rent strike, for to actually meet the moment, meet the crisis, not just tweet out things and do live streams, but you have a massive email list. One of the things that Bernie criticized President Obama for, rightly so, was Obama, when he became president, left his massive army and his massive email list of a lot of young people, just left them at the altar. Didn't use them anymore because, Citigroup was choosing Obama's cabinet. So there's plenty of things to criticize Bernie about. There's nothing wrong with criticizing Bernie. And I've triggered people and lost subscribers for criticizing Bernie. And it seems now people are upset because I won't do what others are doing. And by the way, it's not just Jimmy. There's other people talking like this. So it's not like I've seen some comments like stop criticizing or bad-mouthing Jimmy. I'm not bad-mouthing Jimmy. I just brought him up because he's the one with the biggest platform talking like this. But there's plenty of other people. Bernie's a sellout. Bernie's a fraud. A coward. This and that. I just disagree with that kind of thinking. And to me, it kind of is like a very middle school, high school way of thinking. I think it's ridiculous. Let me explain why. Again, you could criticize Bernie for plenty of things to criticize him about. But contrary to what somebody said in the chat, there was no active, organized, progressive movement nationally before Bernie Sanders ran in 2015-16. I think Jimmy and others might be forgetting that. Yeah, Occupy came before. It was good while it lasted. There was flaws in Occupy. But when Occupy was done, it was done. There was no coordinated, massive, organized, progressive movement before 2015. Most progressives were asleep during the Obama administration. Sure, there were pockets, Black Lives Matter, Fight for 15, Occupy this and that, but different groups are not the same thing as a national movement. Okay? So Bernie Sanders brought many millions of people into the progressive movement that were younger, that were cynical or just disinterested before. Bernie Sanders, although it hasn't manifested into power yet, I had a conversation with somebody this morning that was attached to his campaign saying he was the right person to activate people and bring people into the progressive movement. He wasn't the person to actually seize power for the progressive movement. But that doesn't mean somebody's a sellout. That doesn't make somebody a fraud. That doesn't make somebody a coward. It's easy for somebody on YouTube or Twitter to call someone a sellout or a coward. You try being the target of massive hundreds of millions of dollars of media criticism for 5 years. Hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions, in corporations attacking you, think tanks attacking you, Wall Street attacking you, the fossil fuckers attacking you, Big Pharma attacking you. Are you so brave that you're willing to do that? I'm talking about you, the people criticizing him. So I criticize Bernie when I think he should be criticized. But there's a difference between criticizing people on specific issues or failures and oh, he's a coward, he's a this, he's a that. Well, a lot of people saying that wouldn't have the audience they have right now without Bernie Sanders and his movement. I mean, that's just the truth. Nomiki mentioned clicks. A lot of these people have gotten a lot of clicks and a lot of subscribers based off of Bernie's movement, including me, by the way. So if tomorrow I find out Bernie has been money laundering and Bernie had a secret super PAC and Bernie has done things like that that's completely against everything we know about him, I'll be the first one to call him a sellout. But just because somebody's not going as aggressively as you, fill in the blank YouTube host wants to go, or fill in the blank tweeter wants to go, just because somebody's not fire breathing like you doesn't make somebody a sellout or a coward. And frankly, I think it's kind of ridiculous and foolish for people in the comfy confines of their garage or wherever their studio is to be saying that about other people that have done more in 5 years than they'll ever do in their whole life. I think Bernie was weak during the campaign. I think he let old style Senate norms, calling my friend a senator from this place, and he let, because Biden and was nice to him when he was a senator, cloud the fact that Joe Biden has hurt millions and millions of Americans. Joe Biden has put black people in jail that shouldn't be in jail. Joe Biden, not just Joe Biden, Bush and Cheney did this, Joe Biden cheerleaded and helped push forward a war based on lies. So Somebody said, bye, Jordan. Goodbye. I don't give a shit. If you want to unsubscribe or not be a member because your views aren't 100% regurgitated, then you're no better than a Fox News viewer. And goodbye. Seriously. I'm not going to trade my integrity to keep subscribers or keep members. If you want somebody, if all you want to hear is Bernie and this person is a sellout and a fraud and a coward, I'm not your guy. I think Jen agrees too. I don't want to speak for her, but she agrees. So, if Bernie needs to be criticized, I will criticize him. If AOC needs criticism, I will, and I have. I think AOC is very, very naive to think that she could build relationships with the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi. Hell no. Frankly, I think the progressive movement needs not just one leader, because I think we learned from Bernie it's not just one leader, and we're not going to get what we want just through electoral politics. But I think we need somebody like Nina Turner. Because Nina Turner, on the same bandwagon as Bernie, but she's willing to take off the gloves. She ain't interested in making friends. I'm not like, I'm a journalist. Obviously, I admire Nina, but I'll criticize her when necessary, too. But the point is, I think this narrow-minded, short-sighted, just reflexively anger, somebody's a sellout, somebody's a coward, this and that. You know who's a fucking sellout? Nancy Pelosi's a sellout. That's pretty clear. There's no gray area. You know who's a sellout? Mitch McConnell. Jordan looks pregnant. Thank you, John. I think I've lost a few pounds, but thank you. Mitch McConnell's a sellout. Trump is a sellout. There's people that are very clearly sellouts. Bernie Sanders is the reason that right now, when it's safe, I think it's very likely you're going to see protests, not just of progressives, but of neoliberals, of conservatives. I think you're going to see protests in the streets for Medicare for all, and major protests. I'm talking thousands and thousands of people for Medicare for all, because people are desperate. And 40 million people are without health care now, on top of the 30 million people that were already without health care before that. You think it's because of you that's going to happen? You think that Medicare for all protests, those protests are going to happen because of Jimmy or everybody else? And again, I'm not bashing Jimmy. I texted him today. We're friends. I like Jimmy. I agree with him on a lot of the merits. I just don't agree with the sellouts and the cowards and all that stuff. Realize who the enemy is. It ain't Bernie. And Bernie is the reason you're going to be seeing. He is the key major reason you will see people on the streets for Medicare for all. He is the key major reason, if there is a general strike in this country, if it ever gets there, the first bricks on that road were paved first by Occupy Wall Street and then much, much more bricks by Bernie Sanders. So it's easy when we're angry and fed up and, we see we're getting a lot of clicks and I'm not saying that's why Jimmy or others are saying that, but it's easy to prey on people's anger. Fox News preys on it intentionally. I'm not saying other people in the progressive are doing it intentionally, but it's easy to just be angry and just rant and just say this person's a sellout because he ain't feeling and saying what I'm saying. It's a lot harder to actually tell the audience that there's some nuance involved. And here's where I think Bernie is wrong. Right now, first of all, he shouldn't have dropped out when he dropped out. I said it then. He should have never done these hostage-taking live streams with Biden. It looks like he's fucking being held hostage. Thank you for the $20. Who was that? Vicky Blair, $20. I totally agree with you, Jordan. I'm from Vermont, and Bernie has always been that nice. I think he got bad advice, and it sucks. Hey, it ain't bad advice. Bernie was told. Nina Turner screamed at him, take off the gloves. David Sorda screamed at him, take off the gloves. A lot of his top campaign officials screamed at him, take off the gloves. Bernie is 78 years old. It's up to Bernie. And he chose to be diplomatic and, not go scorched earth. Let me tell you something. If Bernie Sanders runs ads in South Carolina that Joe Biden invented being arrested in South Africa on his way to meet Mandela, if Bernie Sanders ran ads that Joe Biden has lied for 30 years at black churches, by the way, in front of black people about marching and civil rights protests, Bernie Sanders ain't losing South Carolina by 30 points. Because if I know one thing, I'm not trying to white-splain, older black people, well, black people, period, but older black people particularly, they don't like white people exploiting civil rights. Majority of them, from Jen's interviews and me speaking with African-American voters, had no idea any of this because the media didn't report it and Bernie didn't run ads. So my point is, yeah, Bernie made mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But it's easy to be a YouTube host or a tweeter. Well, he's not fire-breathing. He's not holding the Democratic Party hostage right now. Well, at the end of the day, let me ask you something. If you are one senator and the only thing you could do is filibuster and delay the bill, are you going to filibuster for days, for a week, and stop the first bill that went out, even though it was horrible, that bill? Are you going to choose to fight the war then and delay unemployment, $1,200 check? I'm not saying it was enough. I've been shitting on that bill, but it is what it is. Are you going to be the person, because he wanted Bernie to filibuster? You going to do that? Because it's easy to say you would do that as a YouTube host. It's easy to do that as a tweeter. You're going to be the one that delays unemployment for millions of people? $1,200 check for millions of people? I think he should have voted no against the bill. I don't know why he voted for it. Where Bernie is failing right now is you have an army of people looking for a leader right now. Yeah, you're not going to win the presidency, but you're still a leader. In 6 months, he shamed the richest man in the world to raise Amazon's minimum wage to $15 an hour. That was Bernie Sanders and his digital media operation. They just shamed him. They pounded Bezos day after day. The media started picking it up, and he shamed him. If you could do that in 6 months, what can you do right now with a global depression about to happen, with millions of people behind you? So I think he's failing. I don't know why he's not fighting. I don't know why he refuses to call out Pelosi and Schumer on these bullshit bills they're putting out that don't go nearly far enough. I can't answer that. I don't know why he's doing that. But that doesn't make somebody a coward. That doesn't make somebody a sellout. And frankly, I'm not going to sell out my integrity and my principles to satisfy people that want to only hear their views 100% vindicated. So if you are one person who doesn't want to watch and only wants to watch people that say things that you agree with 100% of the time, goodbye. I'd rather get rid of a couple people and build the right way. Because I don't need people following or supporting Status Coup that think in these high school terms, a sellout, a coward, a fraud. Okay. Well, if you are so much braver than Bernie, you should run for office. And you should totally topple the corrupt oligarchy just by ranting. Thank you for the 50 pounds, Jacqueline Dublou. Bonjour, Jordan. Also, Nina for vice president. One could dream. How about Nina for president 2024? Start the campaign now. First, Nina for mayor of Cleveland next year, or Ohio senator in 2022. I love Nina Turner. I'm a Turner bro, and I ain't ashamed. Invite Howie Hawkins for the Green Party. Jojo, I've thought about inviting Howard Hawkins, but he is really drinking this Russiagate Kool-Aid. I guess I could have him on and challenge him on that. But he's a Russiagator through and through. Jay Needler. Bernie is not a leader. He let the inmates run the asylum in his campaign. Hey, Jay Needler, I went around the country. No disrespect, you didn't. I could tell you because I went around the country. I have sources in his campaign, It wasn't the campaign. It was Bernie. The top officials of the campaign, not just in 2020, but in 2016, were pleading with this man to take off the gloves, go after Hillary Clinton, go after Biden. You know, people in his campaign were telling him, yeah, go after her on the emails. Bernie said, no, I don't want to talk about the damn emails. That was a mistake. He should have. It ended up mattering in the general election, I can tell you that. And his campaign manager, Fez Shakir, not perfect. He made a lot of mistakes too. Sirota, Nita Turner, his pollster were all pleading with him to go after Biden a lot harder. Sirota uses the term contrast. I could tell you he wasn't saying contrast in private conversations with Bernie. I know for a fact certain individuals high up at his campaign were pleading with him to go after Biden on his lying about his civil rights record. So we could blame the campaign for certain things, but if Bernie wouldn't make the decision to do it. So that's what I feel. If you don't like me or you don't want to be with Status Coup because we're not fire breathing enough for you, then I guess go where you feel the fire burns bright. But I will tell you, I like having people on that don't we shouldn't just have people on that are any one thing. I want to have more people on that could give different perspectives. I wanted to have Nomi on because she understands the DNC and that stuff more than I. So why would I try talking about something that I'm not an expert on in terms of delegates and stuff like that when I could have somebody on that is? You might think Nomiki, some people said, oh, she's too inside the party or whatever. That's fine. Rewire your thinking. You don't need to agree with people 24/7. This is not high school. And Nira, if you don't want us to call Bernie out, you could block us. I don't care what you say about Bernie. You can say whatever you want. I'm just telling you I disagree with sellout, coward, this and that. We're not policing you. Say whatever you want. I'm just explaining to you why I think that's short-sighted, narrow-minded thinking. Go ask the people who are going to get unemployment if Bernie sold them out. Go ask the people benefiting from community health centers if Bernie sold them out. Bernie threatened to derail Obamacare if they didn't sneak in $9 billion for community health centers. That's a childish thing to say, telling people to F off, talk about sophomoric. You're right, John. I shouldn't tell people to F off. My apologies. Is piss off a little better? No, I'm kidding. I don't want anyone to piss off. I'm just saying if you only want to watch people and hear people that 100% of the time put out your position and are just fire-breathing angry, that's fine. Then you don't have to watch me. I mean, I've criticized Bernie more than most. I'm just saying I think there's a difference between criticizing where not just Bernie, but AOC, others should be criticized. I mean, I went after Michael Moore, for God's sakes. That's not a smart thing to do. But there's a difference between healthy criticism and just going off the rails, saying really vile things about a real person who made some serious changes in this country. Bernie has moved the Overton window much, much further. Now it's up to us to carry on. So, Skeptical Mantis. Oh, I like that name. It's not 100% of the time, but this is a major disagreement. I don't know what's the major disagreement. Because I don't think he's a fraud and a sellout? That's a major disagreement? If you could specifically tell me why he's a fraud and a sellout that makes sense, then I will gladly say you're right. But I haven't heard any agreement. I haven't heard anything of why he's a fraud and a sellout. Also, if you could explain to me if Bernie could have done anything to change the outcome of the first bill, to actually stop it and make it better, please tell me that too. Because all I hear is people ranting and saying very, very harsh names, but I don't really hear the specifics of your case or what he could have done differently. He should have voted against it. I think he should be organizing his people right now, his email list, his army, for rent strikes, for a general strike against the Democrats and their bullshit bills they're putting forward. So I'm telling you, I think he's not doing everything he should be doing. Thank you for the super chat. Cheryl Tyler, $10. Bernie is not a sellout. He's there for us. So anyway, that's my spiel. If you don't like it, that's okay too. Jordan and Jen, best and hardest working journalists on YouTube and internet. CJ3, thank you. And Jen for Flint, Michigan. Thank you, Cornelius. We're not done, by the way, on Flint. We're still working on some things. Skeptical Mantis, Bernie refused to say Biden and Obama were corrupt. That is the most basic truth. If he can't tell the truth, F him. Hey, Skeptical Mantis, let me ask you something politically, since you're such a brainiac here. Who is the most important voting bloc in the Democratic Party, Skeptical Mantis? That would be African Americans. So you think it would be a good electoral strategy if you want to win the Democratic primary? We could argue about whether he should have ran as an independent. He should have. But you think it's a great strategy to call the first black president corrupt when the most reliable voting bloc in the Democratic Party is African Americans, specifically African American women? So you wanted Bernie, so you could feel satisfied, call Obama corrupt, which would be a suicide mission to actually winning any states and winning the Democratic primary. This is why this kind of talk and thinking is so dangerous. Yeah, Biden and Obama are corrupt, but you have to make certain compromises. You have to hold back on certain things to win. You can't get any of these changes done on a wide scale if you don't win. So if you wanted Bernie to get crushed even more, he should have called Obama corrupt and turned off the entire black vote. If that would satisfy you, so he would be pure enough for you, yeah, he should have called Obama corrupt. This is the kind of shit that makes me crazy. Okay, if you want pure gladiators, then we are going to be in the minority and never win anything as long as we all live. He was smart not to call Obama corrupt. He would have got destroyed if he called Obama corrupt. If you don't understand that, then there's nothing I can do to help you. Thank you, Jacqueline. Another 20 pounds from across the pond. Skeptical Mantis, what exactly is your problem with Bernie? S Sharp Major, $5 from five something from New Zealand. Hello from New Zealand. Love you down there. Wanted to come. By the way, I agree with you, Skeptical Mantis. He should have called Biden corrupt. Absolutely. Should have never sold out except for teach out. Should have explained why Biden is corrupt, just like he should have explained why Hillary is corrupt. But calling the first black president corrupt when African American voters are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party and vote the most, you're out of your mind. With that, I thank you for watching. I hope I haven't offended too many people. I hope having some integrity is worth something. Thank you. We hit $101,000 raised today. So $9,000 to go for the goal of $110,000. Reminder, tomorrow night we have our members call, 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific. Skeptical Mantis, become a member so we could fight. No, I'm kidding. Virtually spar in the members call over all this. So you can become a member for as low as 16 cents a day. That's $5 a month. Sign up today or tomorrow before 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific to get the link to join our members call tomorrow night. It'll be 7:30 Eastern right after our live stream. Thanks for watching. Peace.